Boy, that's a Axios piece on the infighting in the Biden administration over the border was something to read. How Biden botched the border over at Axios. And, Axios is a house organ for the Democrat Socialist Party, so they probably do have some of this actually right. They've got friends throughout the administration, to be sure. Some of the highlights. Biden exploded with rage at his team aboard Air Force One on the way to the border last year about how things were going. Susan Rice called HHS Secretary Xavier Becerra a bitch ass and idiot.
Oh, hello.
I like that. Reparation H, VP there, Kamala, she said her responsibilities began and ended with the root causes in the Northern Triangle countries. And a former Biden administration official saying Harris has been, at best, ineffective.
Well, really?
Homeland Security Advisor Liz Sherwood Randall displayed an experience asking for a memo explaining the difference between refugees and asylum seekers. That's good to know. The White House generally didn't want to talk publicly about immigration or the border for much of Biden's first 3 years, feeling it would draw attention to a political vulnerability. Right. If we just ignore it, it'll go away. Publicly, the White House also downplayed jumps in illegal border crossings as normal ebbs and flows, even as some internally pushed to acknowledge that the problem was significant. Right. It was no big deal. We have a situation down there, ebbs and flows. Now it's a full-blown crisis, and we've done everything we can, and it's not our responsibility, as Ali Mayorkas, facing his second impeachment vote, said on Meet the Press over the weekend. Not our responsibility. It's been broken for a long time. Congress failed to act. Not my fault. Okay, sure. Good luck with that. For more on this and other GOP-related matters, we're pleased to be joined again by former Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, now the president of the Young America's Foundation. Governor Walker, thanks for joining us, as always. Appreciate it.
Good morning. Yeah, it's an invasion. He doesn't get it. It's an invasion at our southern border.
Well, I think it's actually worse than an invasion. I keep offering this distinction in response to that characterization. It's an importation by our federal government. It's purposeful.
Yeah,
they're the ones sponsoring
it's an invasion. It's why I stand with Texas. I stand with Greg Abbott. I think he's 100% right. And so many people in the media don't understand what the Supreme Court did. They did not rule against Texas being able to protect themselves and stop invasion, deportation, whatever you want to call it. They just said that the federal government, until this case worked itself out, could continue to send federal employees in to cut down the fencing and barbed wire that the state of Texas is putting up, which, of course, is counterintuitive. You're actually trying to solve the problem, and instead our federal tax dollars are going to counter the one elected official who's actually trying to do something about it, and that's the governor of Texas. It is absolutely insane, but it's part of not only part of the federal government doing this, but I worry it's part of what China is trying to do to take us on without even firing a shot. Put fentanyl into America, see all these kids overdose, do all these other crazy things that undermine this country without even issuing a military attack. It's unfortunately, I think, part of a larger plan.
Well, Governor Walker, what is the larger plan? I mean, are you saying that Biden has let these millions of people come in over the last 3 years to maybe build up the Democratic base?
Well, it's a combination of that. I think that's certainly where many on the left presumably like to see things at. I also think it's a problem. They're being an unnecessary ally. Peter Schweitzer's got a book coming out the end of this month. He's the one that did Red Handed a few years ago. He did Clinton Cash. I believe he's going to document very specifically, after extensive research, the involvement of the Chinese Communist Party along the border and the impact that that's happening. And again, if your goal, you're Xi Jinping, if you've got a long game, a long view to undermine America, he knows he can't compete against our military strength, at least at this moment. But they can certainly undermine us, not just at the border, but with TikTok, with all these other things going on. It is clear that there's a concerted effort against the United States. And at best, Joe Biden's a useful idiot in that regard.
So we've got some fissures in the GOP ranks, too. We had the Senate, thanks to 19 Republicans, move $95 billion foreign aid package, Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan, Gaza, Ukraine again, out of the Senate today. It's DOA in the House, according to Speaker Mike Johnson. So there's that going on. And then there's a shakeup at the RNC with North Carolina chairman, GOP chairman, I guess Michael Whatley is going to take over. Michael, wasn't he Lord of the Dance? Oh, no, that was Michael Flatley. But it would be interesting to have Michael Flatley be the RNC chairman. Anyway, RNC chairman Michael Whatley from North Carolina and Laura Trump as sort of co-chairman. Is that what you understand is going to be the deal? And what if so? How do you assess it?
Absolutely, that's exactly what's going to happen. Wiley's only been involved the last couple of years. He was in the private sector before all this. I think he gets it. I think he understands. I think it's part of the reason why Laura Trump's going to be the coach here. They've got to step up and listen to the base. They've got to push back. They can't be a part of the D.C. establishment, and that they've got to make the case that they're focused on winning this presidential election. They're going to put their resources in key battleground states like mine in Wisconsin. They're going to fight for specific competitive House seats, and they're only going to compete in states where they can win the United States Senate race. So I think they're going to be smart, prudent, but the left has got a ton more money, and it's going to take a massive effort to get back up on track.
Do you think they'll be good at attracting younger voters and attracting them to the Republican Party?
Well, yeah, I think with young people, the work I do at Young America's Foundation, we're not a campaign organization, but we work directly with students on campus and schools, even in middle school now. And what we're seeing is there's an opening out there that young people get it, that the economy is an absolute train wreck. It's a dumpster fire, and they blame Joe Biden. We just got to make sure that they understand that conservatives have a better plan, a better approach, that long-term they're better off with us. If we just make some inroads with the 18, 29-year-old voting crowd, we can win in places like Wisconsin and elsewhere across the country. And I think Michael and the rest of the new team will get that. But they also got to show they got to make steps to act on voter integrity now. They can't whine about it afterwards. They've got to be in court in states like Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, others across the country, in court now to force the court to force these elected officials to actually follow the laws. The problem in 2020 wasn't that the laws were bad. The problem was that too many of these big city election officials didn't follow the law.
Right. So it's a matter of at this stage, it would be making sure that the voter rolls are accurate and that they've abided their responsibilities to clean them after the last cycle, and then preparing for early voting as it starts past Labor Day in every state, but in just, the proximity to the election differs. But having a program ready to go and monitoring going on in real time over that early voting period. So if there is anything that is out of the ordinary or suspect, then they're in court straight away to deal with it, in real time.
Well, exactly. And I think there's tons of patriots across America who are willing to help out, not only in their own states, but as you guys know, I had a ton of people, for example, from Illinois come up when I was in a recall because they knew what was at stake in that recall election. I think the RNC's got to be on point, saying if you're in a state where maybe you're not going to win statewide for the Republican nomination, or not nomination, but you're not going to. Trump's going to be the nominee. Let's just be clear. If you're not a state that Trump can win, or you're not a state where you got a U.S. Senate race we can win, then either target House seats that are competitive in your state or send your volunteers to other states, again, like Wisconsin, where it actually will matter in terms of who the next president is. We need state and national party leaders willing to do that instead of this kind of, shotgun approach where everything goes. No target. We got a handful of states, 5 to 6 states that will elect the next president, put our time, our resources, our volunteers there. And then we've got a handful of House seats that will determine whether or not Republicans keep the House majority. Focus your attention on that. And if we're lucky, along the way, we pick up the U.S. Senate. But it's got to be a targeted effort. And I think we've got to show the base that this national party, the RNC's actually got a plan. And I hope that's what Michael does. I think he's capable of doing it. He did that in North Carolina. He really involved and energized the base in that state. And they had some massive turnarounds with their state Supreme Court. I hope the same thing's true nationally.
And you believe? Sorry, go on.
And the RNC National Committeeman, Republican National Committeeman for Illinois, Richard Porter, who you know, has said he made a good observation too that Lara Trump's star power will help with fundraising and as a spokesperson, she's good she's good on her feet, she's good on TV, and obviously there's some star power to try to make up that deficit you were talking about in terms of Dem cash versus GOP cash.
Right, you got to motivate people that it makes a difference. I think right now there's a lot of people, right or wrong, and it's a tough job, feel like the RNC isn't listening to them, isn't doing the things that they want. I think the new leadership, particularly with Laura, they'll realize the connection to the presidential campaign. I think they'll step up. But there's a lot of work that's got to be done. They also need to step up. I wrote this in the Washington Times last week, what I thought the new chair needed to do. And a part of it as well is reaching out to non-traditional voters. Donald Trump did a phenomenal job reaching out to black and Hispanic voters. We need to step it up with younger voters. I think there's an opportunity, again, with the economy and with the border. These are issues that people of all ages care about, but we've got to have a compelling message. They're ready to move away from Joe Biden. They realize that Joe Biden is a train wreck. They realize that he's not competent. They realize that he's incapable of leading the country. Now we just got to show them that conservatives have a better approach going forward.
So the survey that you did, or that Young America's Foundation did, that finds by almost 2-1 college students said Biden is not fit to be president. You know, if that's the case, and we know what the numbers are nationally, the more like 75 to 85%, then should the Republicans stop talking about it? And hey, if Joe Biden says he's mentally fit, that's up to people to decide. People can decide for themselves. We're not talking about it anymore. We're talking about the interests of the people that we're running to serve, and that has nothing to do with Joe Biden or his mental fitness. That's up to the people to decide. So let's leave it there. And if it's so manifestly obvious, which it is, then why continue to beat that drum?
Yeah, I think there's two things that conservatives we need to be talking about. One, that Joe Biden and everybody else just has bad ideas. That this is not just because of his age. It's not just because of his inability to be competent. He's always had bad ideas. Even 40 years ago when he was first running for president at the end of the Reagan administration, he's got bad ideas. Liberals have bad ideas. We don't want any more bad ideas. And I think that's the sort of thing that resonates. Then we have to contrast that with, well, so what are our ideas? How do we make life better? And we've got a compelling case. We've shown that it worked. It worked under Reagan. It worked under Donald Trump's first term when he went out and aggressively cut taxes, reined in the federal government. Part of the problem why inflation, one of the driving forces for why inflation is so high, is of course because federal spending is just out of control. We need to get it under control, and that should be part of what Republicans are talking about.
Scott Walker, President and CEO of Young America's Foundation, former governor of Wisconsin, of course, and presidential candidate as well. Governor Walker, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Great to be with you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
For armed or unarmed security, average isn't good enough. You deserve more. You need more.
Morrison means more.
Morrison Security. More deterrence and prevention with customized programs that fit your